John Weaver up to lead us in a word of prayer. He's from Rosedale Baptist Church. Appreciate you being here today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's pray. Father, we are grateful for the many liberties and freedoms that we enjoy in this nation and our community. We're grateful for those who have made it possible and those who guard it today. Ask that you would guide and bless the proceedings of this court. Grant that wisdom and fair and appropriate justice would be the norm. We ask you to give protection to those who serve. Please watch over and guard our military, our law enforcement, our first responder personnel in your care. I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, John. Sheriff, if you will, lead us in the pledge.
If you would please rise. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you have a cell phone, please silence.
Thanks, Sheriff. Next, approval of minutes. Guys, y'all had a chance to look over the minutes. If you approve, I need a motion and a second.
Motion to approve minutes as received, Judge.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. No discussion. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Coles?
Yes.
Mr. Barter?
Yes.
Mr. Tudor?
Yes.
Mr. Buchan?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Guys, treasurer's report is in your drop box. Glenda's out of the office this week, and she will be actually giving this presentation to you guys at our next court meeting. First order of business also, pictometry agreements and the CSEP HVAC bids were on the agenda today. We've pulled those from the agenda because they're not quite ready to be presented to the court at this time. So if you want to scratch those off of your agendas, you can. Again, that's the pictometry agreement and the CSEP HVAC bids. First on the agenda today is the resolution 1816. This is a CDBG grant that we are the applicant agent on with God's Outreach. I'm going to read the resolution. So, certification of the Madison County Fiscal Court regarding an anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan as required under Section 104D of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended. Whereas the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended, Section 104D requires the county to replace all occupied and vacant, occupiable, low, moderate dwelling units demolished or converted to use other than as low, moderate income housing where demolition or conversion is a direct result of activities assisted with the Community Development Block Grant funds. And whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court has applied for and received funding for a Community Development Block Grant for God's Outreach Food Bank Expansion Project 16-030, and whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court will not demolish or replace any occupied or vacant, occupiable, low, moderate income dwelling units as a result of this proposed Community Development Block Grant program. Now therefore be it certified by the Madison County Fiscal Court that the proposed Community Development Block Grant program will involve the acquisition of one parcel. Number two, to be consistent with the goals and objectives of activities assisted under Section 104D of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended, the city will take the following steps to minimize displacement of persons from their homes as a result of this project. There will be no displacement or residential or commercial occupants as a direct result of project activities.
Judge, if you would, on item number 2, please strike city and
county.
In county there. We'll send you a copy of that revision there.
Sure.
Just to let the fiscal court know that you all had passed this certification once before, but it said we were requiring 0 parcels. And if you recall from previous meetings, you've revised the scope of the project so it's an acquisition of the property directly across from the food bank where they'll have much more parking, storage space, etc.
Yep.
Would you describe where that park is, where it's located so the audience will know what we're talking about?
It's on the corner of Lake and East Main. Everyone knows it as a place where all the U-Hauls are. So that property, I think it's 1.5 acres with the structures there would be acquired in whole, and then it would take just a minor bit of modification, rehabilitation of those structures to make it a much larger storage facility for the food bank.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby.
Thank you.
At this time, if you approve Resolution 1816, I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. No discussion. Call the roll.
Mr. Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Tudor?
Yes.
Mr. Bodkin?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Next is appointments to EKU Center for the Arts Community Operations Board. I would ask the court's permission to make a motion and a second to reappoint Estelle Baird to the Community Operations Board.
Move to appoint, reappoint Estelle Baird to the second board, EKU.
I have a motion and a second. No discussion. Call the roll.
Mr. Tudor?
Yes.
Mr. Bodkin?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mr. Barger?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. The next appointment to the Community Operations Board would be the reappointment of Marvin Kuiper. If you all approve, I need a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
No discussion. Call the roll.
Mr. Bodkin?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mr. Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Tudor?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next, Mr. Chris Israel. Approval of IT agreements.
Good morning. We're here this morning seeking your approval for Judge Taylor to sign the yearly IT service agreements with the following agencies: Kirksville Water, Madison County 911, Madison County Detention Center, Madison County Sheriff, Madison County EMS, Madison County PVA, Madison County Utilities, and our newest customer, Southern Madison Water District. There were no changes to the contracts as they existed last year or the dollar amounts.
Chris, could you sort of explain to everyone why we do this, please?
Sure, it's a great deal for these other agencies. Instead of having to contract an outside IT vendor to do this work for them, which would be way more expensive than what we do, it saves them a lot of money. It also helps offset our cost. It brings them under our policies, keeps them safe with all of the House Bill 5 information and personal information, all that kind of stuff that we have to secure. So all those kind of things fall underneath of that because they get to fall under our policies. They get to take advantage of our contract pricing on copiers and on software and on licensing and all those things. It's a great deal for them. It's worked out. We've done it for about the last 11 years. So only one that hasn't signed yet is, he always smiles at me, is Kenny. He never signs it, so.
So Southern Madison is the only new one?
Yes, and we cut their contract. They were paying, I think, $15,000 to $18,000 a year, and now they're paying $7,000.
Thank you.
So yeah, it's good for them. It's good for their customers.
It is good. I mean, it keeps the lower
Good
costs
all
down.
around.
Yeah.
Yep.
Judge, I represent Madison County Utilities and Kirksville Water, and we benefited from their services. And not only is the cost nice, but I want to compliment Chris and his crew. They do a wonderful job, and so it's exemplary service in addition to the price.
Yeah.
So
Good.
They do a nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thanks, guys. Guys, if y'all approve and allow me to sign these agreements with all these entities, I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
No discussion. Call the roll.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mr. Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Tudor?
Yes.
Mr. Bodkin?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Next is a memorandum of agreement between the county and Tommy Colt Properties LLC. This is on Twin Lake subdivision. Guys, I'm going to ask your permission for me to sign this agreement. As y'all probably know, that Twin Lakes subdivision was developed many years ago. The developer at the time had financial issues and went back to the bank. People's Bank of Madison County has been keeping up with the subdivision since then. We do have a letter of credit with People's Bank at the moment. Tommy Colt Properties is looking to purchase the back section of the subdivision. There is no cul-de-sac there right now, and in our regulations, it requires there to be a cul-de-sac at the end of the road. There's basically like a track 2B, which is what is on the plat. That road would be extended on back for like another phase of the development, and so we wanted to make sure that before we released any kind of letter of credits to the bank, that we had one established with Tommy Colt to make sure that cul-de-sac basically gets put in. We understand that there's no sense in putting the cul-de-sac in now at the end of the road if there's going to be another phase go on back of the development. It's a waste of money. But this letter of credit with them secures that whether the cul-de-sac goes in where the road ends now or the road extends back to a cul-de-sac, that there will be a cul-de-sac put in. So if you all agree in me signing this memorandum of agreement with Tommy Cope, I need a motion and a second.
On blacktop on that road.
So before we release the bank's letter of credit, they're actually gonna blacktop. I'm not really sure if it's phase 1 or phase 1 and 2, but basically all the roads that are already established in there before we release their letter of credit, they're gonna go ahead and resurface those.
Okay.
And then once they do that, then we will be bringing that to a meeting where we adopt those into our county road plan.
Yeah, you know, a lot of times we forget things like that, and I just wanna make sure that us, Tom's district, did that.
Yeah, and it's okay over in there. This cul-de-sac project is one that's been looming for a while, and this is a good agreement that ties that up and makes sure that at some point in time that gets put in should that development not, for whatever reason, go.
I've got a road the same way, and there's a cul-de-sac right in the middle, and then you go on back.
So there'd be no cost to county under this?
No,
Mr. Copeland
not at all, no.
Furnish all materials and work on the cul-de-sac.
And basically what this agreement says is that if in 12 months he hasn't, gone for a site development plan and proceeded with it, that at that point we can take his letter of credit and do the cul-de-sac, that we have the money to do that. Yep. So, it's good all the way around. It's helping, finish up a project that started a long time ago. It increases our tax base, right? So I need a motion second if you approve me in signing the memorandum of agreement with Madison County Fiscal Court and Tommy Cope Properties LLC.
So I'll make the motion that we approve that agreement for the memorandum between the county, Tommy Cope, and the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Second.
So I have a motion second. No more discussion. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Tudor?
Yes.
Mr. Buckins?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next on the agenda is the need for finding a fact discussion regarding land use change on US Highway 627. It's 1330 Boonesboro Road. Guys, there was a public hearing this past Tuesday night at our planning commission meeting. And there's a lot of representatives here, I know, from that area, and Traditions, and maybe Warriors Trace and Boone Village. So we appreciate you guys being here today. The planning commission made a motion Tuesday night to approve the zone change from UC4 to multifamily. There was a second. There was finding of fact. Then it was voted not to approve 4-3. All right. When that happened, there should have been another motion made to deny with finding of fact, because the law states that there has to be finding of fact one way or the other when it comes to us. So there was not that was not done, and so that everything is above board, and so that no constituent feels like that behind the scenes or there's people making decisions. I think it's best that we send it back to Planning Commission, go through that process again in August, which will be the third Tuesday in August, and let the Planning Commission do basically what the law says properly, so that then when it comes to us, that there is finding a fact of why that the decision was made. And two, it's very important because it could really put us in a potential suit, in a lawsuit, if we don't follow the law and the right process with the potential developers of the property, owners of the property. So I hope that's good with everybody that is here about that, but that's what will happen. Then it will follow that same process. Once there's finding of fact for the approval or the denial, that's when it'll come back to the fiscal court, and we would have a first reading, and then the public hearing would be at the second reading. That's when we would advertise. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
You need a motion for that?
No, we don't need a motion. Yep. So is that good with everybody from the northern end? Yes, sir.
One question.
If you want to speak, please come up to the mic.
Yes, be glad to.
And let me know who you are.
Yes. Morning, gentlemen. My name's Larry Curry.
I live in traditions. My only question, Judge, and to you gentlemen, are we doing a mulligan on this one? Are we going to expect these folks to re-advertise, put the sign back up?
According to the legal,
Uh-huh.
and the Jubal Miller, which is the
Right.
planning and zoning attorney, he said that would be the proper way to go about it, is to go back through that process.
Well, Judge, would it be appropriate that I speak with Jubal and ask him where he found that at? Did he find that in Chapter 100 of the KRS? Did he find it in Robert's Rule of Order? I haven't found that anywhere. I'm not an attorney. I'm pretty well read, but I've not found that. Would it be appropriate, because Jubal was there that night, and I'm a little disappointed. I'm not throwing Jubal under the bus because I have a great deal of respect for him, and he does a great job. I've known him for years. But he sat there, and the finding of fact from the owner was put into the record.
Judge, if I might, I'll address that. So, Mr. Curry and I spoke for a long time on Friday. The statute that you're looking for is KRS 100-211.
Yes?
And the section that is important to you is 2B2.
2B,
2B2 requires make findings of fact, a recommendation of approval or disapproval of the proposed map amendment to the various legislative bodies or fiscal courts involved. It says shall. So
Shall.
there's no wiggle room. It says shall.
And-
So what happened was you had a motion to approve, which was denied.
Absolutely.
That does not mean that it was denied. Just the motion to approve was denied. So the opposite is not true. It seems counterintuitive, but it's not. So there has to be a motion to now deny or disapprove that zone change amendment. And so that KRS 100-211 2B2.
Well, I appreciate that, and I will look at that. It just seems redundant that we would have to do the same finding of fact. It would seem that we're spending a lot of taxpayers' money and people's time to go back and redo the whole thing when obviously those 4 dissenting members found some finding of fact of their own, which I agree. If you vote yes or no for any subject, you should be able to stand up and defend your position. And for you legally and you gentlemen legally, I absolutely understand that. I'm not denying we need finding of fact of why they chose not to, which obviously I was in favor of. I was the opposition for that. But it just seems a bit redundant. They already know why.
Well, I to be honest with you, I made the call because I did it out of respect for you guys.
Well, I appreciate
because
that.
I did not want constituents that left here on Tuesday night
Right.
to leave here thinking that it's coming to us or that it was done properly.
Right.
They were talking about maybe having a special call meeting to clean it up.
Right.
But then somebody might not hear about it. You know, it's happened in the past where the planning commission has changed when
Sure.
you got to that point.
Right.
Well, then what if it came back and it was approved 5-2? Well, then how would you feel if you didn't know anything about it? And so, you know, just to be transparent, this court, I think, has done a very, very good job of being transparent since we've been here, and I want to continue that. And so that was why we made that decision.
Well, it makes sense. I'm not arguing the point. It makes total sense to me that they should be able to answer us to the no. I questioned why it was necessary to go through the whole process again. And
think
what
for
you're saying is a valid point. Perhaps there's some other people. There'll be perception out there that the other side was given a mulligan. Let's do it again and see if we can sway somebody on the other side.
Hey, that's why we're being open and discussing it today.
Well, that's why I'm standing and
that's
asking
why-
these
That's why
questions.
it's going to the next business session in August to go back through that same process so that nobody feels like they've gotten a mulligan.
Well, and that's exactly what, as you might know, Judge.
And you all Traditions, I know you're a tight group, friends with a lot of folks out there.
Well, I understand.
Actually, before I was here, I built a lot of houses out there. So, you know, I've had conversation. What we want out of this is to make sure that the members of the community that live out in that area that this affects, that they know what's going on and that they know the proper procedures that we need to take. And, hey, the Planning Commission, if you want to call it, they had a little oops, right? They did not follow what the law said.
I don't
at their
disagree
meeting.
with that. We're not disagreeing.
We just want to clean it up and to make sure that we proceed the correct way in the future. You know, in my opinion, the fiscal court I don't really care if it comes to me denied or approved. As
You've got to
long
make
as
a
it
decision,
comes-
finding of facts on your own
That's
anyway.
right. But we want to hear, we rely on planning commission, that's what we had.
We
you know.
wouldn't have them if you
That's
didn't
right.
depend on them to be a screening committee
That's right.
of respected citizens who are looking at it in reference to the comprehensive plan.
That's exactly right.
And that's what we approached it, even though we were passionate,
Yeah.
to say the least. We based our arguments based on the county's comprehensive plan.
Right.
So then we could expect this to go at their next business meeting and be advertised as such.
That's exactly right. It'll be for the third Tuesday. I don't
Okay.
know that date right
All
now.
right, gotcha.
But it's the third Tuesday is their business session. That is when it'll go back in front of the planning commission. And depending on their action, then it would come to us
Right.
more than likely the next Tuesday, which will be the fourth Tuesday. Similar to what we're at today
And
in
one
July.
other thing, and I'm not gonna take your gentleman's time, but for those folks who don't understand this process, I happen to be a Long Life resident, and I happen to know how fiscal courts work, but for those folks who don't understand this process, and maybe it's our own fault we don't become involved enough in the fiscal court's business, there'll be a first reading of it, and then the second one will come back, and at that time, you will ask for input from
That's exactly right.
both sides of, and
The second
you
reading
folks
is the
will then
public
find
hearing.
your own findings of fact and vote as to whether to override perhaps a disapproval or agree with the approval.
That's right.
Am I correct, sir?
That's
And
exactly
we
right.
have in the past.
Well, I'm sure you have. I'm sure there have been issues that
But
have,
anybody that wants to, anybody that maybe doesn't understand the process and would like to hear it, feel free to call my office. A lot of the folks out there know me through Sean. I mean, talk to him frequently.
I understand.
And so, feel free to call me. All right, Mr. Curry, appreciate you being here today.
well, listen, thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Anybody else? All right, thank you all very much. And the ones that are in traditions, I know people's lives are busy. If I'll give you a few seconds here, if you all would like to get up and leave, you're more than welcome to stay. But this happens quite often, and people sometimes would like to just go ahead and slip out if their topic is over. So,
Judge Taylor, could I just say one thing?
Sure.
Thank you guys for your service.
yep, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate your time, all right? All right. Let's see, next on the agenda is road salt bids. Scott, you gonna present today? Good morning, buddy.
Good morning. We have our annual salt bids through CAECO every year, where we are bunched together with different county entities to try to get a better price on our salt per ton. They actually sort of had a little mistake and they needed a mulligan. The first time it went around, they had computer software problems, and not all companies were able to put their bids in. So what they done as a whole, our salt bid come back at like $122 per ton. So CAECO got together and they had a new bid where everyone could participate. We just finished that up. Our bid for the county this year is from Detroit Salt Company, and our bid is for $100 per ton.
And
Last
what
year,
was
we
it
did
last
pay
year?
$68 a ton.
That's what I was thinking. Little higher.
Now, one of the things too, I wanna make sure that everybody knows this too, is that we did, so we had some old salt bins. Yeah, how many more tons we just buy to fill those up? So
We bought a couple hundred more tons. We bought everything we had budgeted, and we found an inside storage place for that. So we're
Yeah.
starting off this year with more salt than we've ever had, just to,
Right, at the $68 per
At
$100.
$68,
Yeah,
correct.
trying to save money. Yeah.
Scott, did they tell you why the increase this time?
there's not really been any explanation. I've worked with, the city of Berea. Their bid actually come in at 111. And it's based on how much tonnage you buy. And we both asked that question to the salt companies, and they're basically saying it's due to transportation.
About a third more than what we paid last year.
It is. But I just need, for you all to either accept or deny the salt bid from the CAECO auction at $100 per ton. When they group those together like that, Scott, does everyone receive the same bid price?
In our category.
In my understanding, in our category for the tonnage that we use. Yeah.
Everybody here got it for 100.
No.
No,
No, they
the
did not.
ones that don't use as much have to pay more.
And if
correct?
you'll notice on that list, we didn't write everyone's down because some people just wanted 250 tons, and then we bid out at 6,000 tons. You were the largest one. So that's the reason ours was cheaper.
Scott, we're not obligated to take that unless, or are we?
We're not obligated to take the whole 6,000 tons. All that does is guarantees us the
That
ability
price.
to buy 6,000 tons for $100 a ton.
Should put 100,000.
Yeah, the problem is, though, and that's what sometimes happens, this, like Keiko's explained the salt bid to me, is what happens is for that, let's just use Detroit salt as example. If we don't get close to what tonnage that we say, that it will affect us next year in the prices, right?
That is correct.
Because they go ahead and buy 6,000. Well, if we only do 3,000, then because it's a bad winter, so you know. But to our point, we don't want to be, we don't want to have enough, but it can affect the prices, and this could have been part of the reason, you know, that prices have spiked because everybody else got a lot last year and they didn't end up buying.
And if you can remember several years back when we had the big snowstorms, the state ran out of salt. This prevents us from getting in that category because they guarantee they'll deliver to us at least 6,000 tons.
Scott, the old salt in the back of those bins, does it need brought to the front?
It does not.
It doesn't.
In my
deteriorate in any
experience,
way?
I've been here almost 4 years, and what I have found, we've made it to the back a couple of times.
Just as
and
good
it
as the
seems
front.
like the salt back there is in better condition than the salt up front. And the reason that is because even though the weather doesn't get to it, the humidity does, and it crusts over the front part, and then it preserves everything over there.
So you're gonna have about an inch crust over the base of it.
It'll roughly be an inch, yes.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so if y'all approve the salt bids this year to Detroit Salt Company LLC for $100 a ton, quantity of 6,000 ton, I need a motion and a second.
Should, I move we accept the salt bid from Detroit Salt.
So we got a motion?
Second.
We got a second? No more discussion, call the roll, please.
Mr. Tudor?
Yes.
Mr. Bodkin?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mr. Barger? Yes. Just Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott, appreciate it. Next, the home incarceration program memorandum of agreement. I would ask court's permission for me to sign this agreement with our Madison County Sheriff Mike Coyle and our Madison County Attorney Judd Patterson. This is basically spelling out everybody's roles in our home incarceration program that we're trying to get started. Y'all have had a chance to look over it. It's been in Dropbox. We did make a few little changes that yesterday with Judd. One of the things that any expense that's more than $1,000 needs my approval, just to make sure that everything's above board. And then the other thing that I changed was the line in here that's number 3. It says, as long as the Madison County Attorney's Office is administering the home incarceration program, the home incarceration administrator shall be subject to the employee manual of the Madison County Attorney's Office, and the Madison County Attorney shall have the authority to hire, fire, and or replace that position without fiscal court approval. And then we went on to say, That's what we changed. As long as the Madison County Attorney's Office is administering it, is the way we worded that. And I think that was a little cleaner, so.
How many do we hope to get out on this program, roughly? I know I'm not holding you to one.
No, sure. I see it a little differently, Larry. I see it, the number at the jail, I'd like to see us be 320 or lower. And I think we can do that on a pretty regular basis. The number at the jail is a little lower than it's been actually lately. And so I think right away we can get to 320. Doug, I think we can get close. We've done a couple different snapshots as we've gotten ready to look at who's there, who we can pull out, who's on felonies, who's on misdemeanors. Of course, we're going to start with misdemeanor cases and then move our way through. And I think we can pull probably right away. We're not going to start and make sure we've got all this together, right? So we're going to start with 10 or 15, hopefully this week, as soon as this agreement's signed. We've got them identified. We'll make some motions, get in front of the board, get the orders necessary to get them out. But we're hoping to start with about 15, and then we'll move our way up.
Well, I want to commend you and your office for working on this, and you know, I've talked to you several times and kept saying, let's go, let's go, let's go. And you have. I want to commend you and your office for sitting down doing that and getting the ball rolling.
Well, thank you, Larry. There's been lots of obstacles in the way, but it's the kind of thing I knew in the beginning. You just got to kind of grab the stick and shake your head and keep moving.
Well, the last time we went about it wrong, this time I think we're right.
Hey, let's get a motion in a second, real
Oh,
quick.
okay.
Well,
Yeah.
can I ask a question before we get too far down the line here? I'm just,
Questions really should come after a motion in a
Sorry,
second
yes.
and have discussion.
I make a motion we approve.
Okay.
I'll second that. I got something.
All right, so I have a motion in a second, so now open for discussion.
all
Tom?
right, so on number 3, the county is paying for the person, all right, and the deputy. And so that's stated in paragraph 1. In paragraph 3, the comments about the Madison County Attorney shall have the authority to hire, fire, and/or replace position without further fiscal court approval. So they're a fiscal court employee, is that not right? So why would the fiscal court not have the authority to
Well,
dismiss?
so part of this is because the way that the laws and the way this program's got to work. You know, reason when we discussed this, we really didn't want the position. We just wanted to fund the program, right?
Right.
And as long as it was saving heads in beds and was trying to save tax dollars with how many was incarcerated, how many were sending out, it was all going to run through the county attorney's office. But the way the laws are with prosecuting, and I'm no lawyer, if you want to speak on this, Judge,
I will, yeah. I think
you
I
bail
can
me
just-
out here.
yeah.
Because I'll be going down a dark hole, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a reason for it.
So you don't want somebody who's working for the county attorney to be a county attorney employee who's administering the program, because there'll be times where that person is out doing home visits, doing different things, and if that person encounters a crime or evidence of a crime, you don't want that person to be an employee of the county attorney's office. And so that's exactly right. And so the other issue that language is very important is we can't have a gap in time when you're running a home incarceration program. So if that position needs to change, we can't have a 2 or 3 week lag in who's running that program. We've got people on monitors that have to be monitored, that you're gonna have to move immediately, right? So that we can't have a delay in order to administer that program effectively and keep everybody safe in the community. And so that was really important that whoever's administering the program, in this case the county attorney's office, has the authority to control that position. And there's also lots of reasons it just doesn't work well with how the county's employee manual works. That position is going to be working odd hours, odd times, might work 60 hours in a 3-day period, and then not have much going on for the next 3-day period. So there's going to be it's going to require lots of flexibility. The fiscal court and the Madison County employee manual just doesn't allow for it. And so that language was important to me in order so that our office has the flexibility we need to administer that program in a way that will work.
They're gonna be under the county attorney's employee manual.
Right.
All right.
And the other thing too is that when this program was done before, and it was before we all came in here, is when they stopped it. Judge Clark stopped the program. That program was actually run under the fiscal court, and for whatever reason, it didn't really work that well. And so I don't want to go down a path where we're doing something that was already been proven to the community didn't really work, right? And so we came up with this plan.
Okay.
So,
Judge, I'd just like to say that I think everybody here is in favor of reducing the
Cradness at the jail. I think this is a good program, as long as it's monitored well and everybody is in check. And I'd like to say, whoever's comes on as the new county attorney, I hope they're willing to work with this program and continue it and not let it elapse. Once they take
I think
office.
they'll see the benefit of it, and I think they both do. I was talking with both. and,
But that time we'll know how the program's working and
Sure.
have all the kinks out. Good. And I appreciate your service and
Good.
well you've worked on
Appreciate your work.
Appreciate it.
putting this together. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
I won't say it again.
So I have a motion and a second. If there's no more discussion, call the roll, please.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next is the approval of the home incarceration employee. It's Hannah Lynn Pope. Hannah Lynn Pope will be at a salary of $40,000, and the start date was actually already May 16th because Judd had already hired her under his, but then found out through the judges and the judicial process that we had to reorganize. So, all right. So if I have a motion and a second to approve Hannah Lynn Pope.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. No more discussion, call the roll, please.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Dustin, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Next is the personnel and the CSEP logistics officer.
Yeah, we held interviews a few weeks ago for the logistics officer 1 position. We had a panel consisting of Michael Bryant, Jim Wilson, Rachel Tyler, and myself. The panel recommends we hire Jeffrey Milbreth. He's
Stand up, please.
here in the audience. Jeffrey holds a bachelor's degree from EKU. He's working on his master's degree. Has a lot of experience in logistics and inventory from previous employments. We recommend we start him at $34,000 a year and with a start date of August the 8th.
Do I have a motion and a second to hire Jeffrey Milbrath?
So moved.
Salary of $34,000, start date August 8th. Got a motion?
Second.
Do I have a second? I will have to say that I met with Jeffrey yesterday. I do my own little interview with the individuals, and delightful, bright young man. So appreciate you applying for Madison County EMS and look forward to working with you.
Jeffrey also was an intern with us for about
Yep.
3 or 4 months
Yeah, he was.
in the fall.
Yep.
So
Through our EKU intern
worked out
program.
well,
Yeah, it was
yep.
good.
I commend you once again, Dustin, for the high quality of personnel that you're able to bring to the county.
thank you, sir.
We appreciate it.
Hey, in this situation, Tom, our process works excellent.
There you go.
It really does. I mean, it's great. So appreciate it. So I have a motion and a second. If no more discussion, call the roll, please.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dustin. Appreciate it. Next is personnel in the fire department. Chief.
How are you?
Good, buddy. You?
All right. Like to Jacob Daniels, he's a level 1 firefighter. He's got his 400 hours, just completed that. And that would move him to a level 2. It would bring his pay to $750 an hour, starting 7/25/2018.
All right. So we approve the promotion of Jacob Daniel from a firefighter 1 to a firefighter 2, moving his proposed salary to $750 from $725, starting 7/25/2018. I need a motion and a second, please.
Judge, under Chief Gray's recommendation, I move we promote Jacob Daniels.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. No more discussion. Call the roll, please.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. Next is executive session. I need a motion and a second for us to go into executive session, and it's over a personnel matter.
So moved. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yeah, go ahead. If you will, call the roll, please.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Do I have a motion and a second for action needed in executive session?
Judge, I'd like to make a motion to suspend Thomas Bailey for 3 shifts.
In the fire department?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Effective his next shift. Is that correct?
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. No more discussion. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Tudor?
Yes.
Mr. Buckton?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Do I have the next motion?
Yes, sir.
For the other employee.
I would move that we terminate Luke Maddenly, from the golf course.
So I have a motion to terminate Luke Madley and maintenance of golf course.
Yes, sir.
I have a second. No discussion. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Tudor?
Yes.
Mr. Buckton?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next, the judge's report. Got a few announcements. I want to announce here, Madison County Fair begins Friday, July the 27th and runs through Saturday, August the 4th. Again, that's July 27th through August the 4th at the Madison County Fairgrounds on Urban Road. See the Madison County Fair's website for a complete schedule and event times. This coming Saturday,
Making an announcement.
you're making an announcement. All right, so I'll scratch that one. All right. The Richmond Area Arts Council Appalachian Celebration will be Thursday, August the 9th at 5:30 p.m. at the Arts Center at the corner of Lancaster Avenue and Water Street in Richmond. Advance tickets may be purchased at the center. No tickets will be sold at the door for the event. Richmond Tourism will be opening their new Richmond Visitor Center on Thursday, August the 16th. Guys, write this date down. I know the Richmond Tourism is very excited about their new house there on the corner of Aspen Avenue and Main Street. So August the 16th at 6 p.m. At 531 West Main Street in Richmond. It is the vivid dark red brick house with bright white trim at the corner of West Main Street and Aspen Avenue. Berea Celtic Festival will be August the 17th through August the 19th at various locations in Berea. See the Berea Celtic Festival website for a complete list of events and locations. Now's the time to make your reservations for the 2018 Pops at the Park on Saturday, August the 25th. Remember that one, guys. August the 25th is Pops in the Park at Whitehall State Shrine. See the Richmond Chamber of Commerce's website for tickets and more details. Man, it's a wonderful event. This year's, in the light of this event, there was a theme, but I can't remember what it was. I thought it might have been on. What is it?
British Invasion.
British Invasion is the theme. The last thing that I want to make a statement on today is obviously the very exciting week we had last week. And so I just want to make a statement to the community, all those that are in attendance today, all those that potentially are watching, that will be watching this on Facebook, watching it on our cable channel. So last week, my presentation to the community, we presented a concept on how to address the two largest financial impacts facing our county: drugs and the detention center. We learned a lot about that work. We learned a lot about that in the work session. We learned that we have done a great job of communicating our jail overcrowding issue and our drug problem. Through work sessions, media stories, task forces, discussions in court, one thing is clear, that no one denied that we have a jail issue or a drug problem. While I thought we had communicated our financial crisis by holding work sessions about the budget, discussing how incarcerating is not working, the long-run return on investment of converting criminals to taxpayers, it is clear we did not effectively do that. Since 2015, we have worked to communicate that. Fiscal court cut waste and are doing more while saving taxpayers annually $1.5 million in reoccurring expenses. County has not raised property taxes in over 35 years. And right here is a witness that's been here 37 that knows that for a fact. Cities legally have no obligation under state law, nor do they have interest in funding a jail. Madison County has no control over the amount of taxes that EMS, library, school board, extension office, health department, taxing districts tax. Counties are limited by the state on what we legally can tax. We are unable to do consumption tax, unlike the state and cities. Our sole options are property taxes, occupational taxes, which we are capped at 1%, or insurance premium, which the cities of Richmond and Berea already charge. But clearly, we have not effectively communicated the financial concerns clearly to our constituents. And even more importantly, did not engage citizens enough in discussions on how to solve this issue. For this reason, I have made the decision not to proceed with either the jail expansion or the healing center at this time. In the future, if the court wishes to re-engage on how to solve our financial crisis or address our jail overcrowding crisis, we will engage our constituents in public meetings so that everyone has an opportunity to provide input. You know, we've worked, and I'm going to go a little bit off script now because, you know, we worked very hard in the last 3.5 years to make sure that we are transparent, that we're not doing anything to hide anything that we're doing. You know, there was a lot of negative comments on Facebook that, in my opinion, people should be ashamed of. I don't want to be here and play politics, and I've voiced that in 3.5 years by what I've done to engage the community, what I've done to hold work sessions. You know, last week was a very tough week. One thing that I learned is you don't have a special call meeting and talk about a tax increase on Thursday, July the 12th, and take vacation on Friday, July 13th, because you're not going to have a very good vacation. I've got the facts. I've got the numbers. I can't control what previous courts did and the decisions they made, but we're not here to hide anything. And I apologize. You know, I guess I was naive because I expected that we were getting the message out. And so I apologize to those taxpayers. But I'll stand here today on the record. We have a jail obligation, and the law says that we must pay for it. And if we want to spend money after money after money in building expansions and not ever coming up with a solution to fix this problem, and that's what the community wants, then that's what we're going to do, because we are elected by the people. And the whole concept behind this was to come up with solutions, was to turn these individuals that are hurting, that need healed, into taxpayers. And that's where the return on investment would have been. But as you heard me a minute ago, we decided to put it on the back burner until we communicate this better to the community. So, Masters, if you all want to discuss any and make any comments, you're more than welcome to when it comes time for your comments. Comments from department heads. Sure, Scott, come up.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to inform you, as being down at the Kentucky River yesterday at the lock at Boonesboro, we had about 4 feet of water rolling over the dam. So we are canceling Kentucky River sweep indefinitely. We're probably going to have within the Clark County Solid Waste Department, our Solid Waste Department, and a inmate cleanup crew from Clark County go down like sometime late October and have a departmental cleanup. And Fiscal Court there is invited as well to participate that day. So, and I also wanted to announce, per my last discussion about our waste tire collection event in September, I have talked to the city of Berea, and we have agreed, and they're going to set up an alternate place on Harrison Road at their complex there to take in tires and to transport them to the main event place.
Give us that date again, Scott.
September 13th and 14th. There's another day in there as well.
Friday and Saturday.
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Okay. Scott, I want to thank you for working with the city, because that is a long way from southern Madison, to come all the way over here. So I want to thank you for jumping on top of that and getting that approved.
Dwayne Brumley at their street department was all about it and ready to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Any other department heads? All right, comments from Masters. Larry?
Judge, I don't have anything. I'd like to see the rain let up a little bit, and I'm sure a lot of other people would. I'm sure some people are probably behind on mowing the grass. I think you are too.
Yes, I am.
I'm behind on mowing hay. I still don't have the first cut and hay done, so I guess I'll only get one cut in this year, but we're blessed to have the rain, but sometimes you can get too much. But you can't get too much blessings, but sometimes you can get too much. But other than that, Judge, I'm just glad to be here.
Glad you're here, Larry. Tom?
Well, I want to say a couple things today, Judge. I want to just start out by saying that, and I've said this numerous times in court, I've said it numerous times in public, I just want to reiterate it one more time. I'm a nobody. I'm a 20-year United States Army veteran. I was an Army officer. I came back to Madison County. I decided to continue pursuing that, representing the 4th District and the district I live in. During Operation Desert Storm, I received a Bronze Star. I'm not saying that today to be up here bragging in front of you. I use that Bronze Star today to remind myself that if that's the only thing that you've ever done, you've done nothing. God bless me and let me come back from Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait with no holes in it. A lot of our fellow soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines did not get that option. So I represent 16,000 voters, probably 20,000 if you count the non-registered voters. Anytime that you have called me in the past, never one time have I ever asked any of you what party you belong to. It was either I can either help you or I can't help you. Always made an effort one way or the other, all right? My views on the issue of the jail and the drug problem in Madison County were more of the hardliner stance, spending 20 years in the military. I have a son who's a police officer. I have a nephew who spent 20 plus 5, 6, 7 years with KSP. So I've had personally a very different view from that. But I will just ask you, I just want to ask you today, I just want you to indulge me just for a second and just go along just for a second. If you have a family member and you're in this court that's directly affected by drugs, would you just please raise your hand? All right, thank you. If you know of a friend or a family that's had a drug problem, would you please just raise your hand? Well, that pretty much covers everybody in this court, all right? So, I want to just tell you about a couple of families that I met. One was a lady that lives off on Barnes Mill, and in the course of my discussion and talking to her in the primary, she revealed to me that she had a daughter who was an addict. All right, that was her choice. She also revealed to me with tears in her eyes that she had a second daughter who was also an addict. Once again, that was her choice. I met a grandfather while knocking on a door out in Kingston who came to the door, and he had a 2-year-old in his arms. And as I stood there and talked to him, he revealed to me that his daughter and his son were both addicts. And he was raising their 2-year-old and their 6-year-old. This gentleman's in his 60s. That was their choice. He also told me that his wife had a back injury. She was put on painkiller prescription medicine for her pain. Through that, she became hooked on it. Prescriptions come out, run out, she done everything she could. He also told me at that time that he wished that I would help him because a doctor had just given her a prescription for painkillers. He said, she's an addict. Why in the world would any doctor in their right mind give her painkillers when they know that she's hooked on it? I don't know why they do that. That's their job, I guess. But he asked me to help him because he was concerned that perhaps this doctor maybe wasn't using all the the vows and the things that he swore to do. And I was concerned enough in his case that I asked for an investigation on that. I asked for that doctor to be looked into. Perhaps they were writing too many prescriptions. There was a report several months ago that indicated that there were a number of doctors in the United States. It just so happens there was a few of them from right here in central Kentucky that were writing too many opioid prescriptions, way too many. They were in the top 10% of Medicaid and Medicare writing opioid prescriptions. I felt that was pretty valid enough that we ought to check that out. I don't know. I had surgery a couple years ago, and it was a pretty extensive surgery on my shoulder. And during that time, I was given Percocets. Now, if you're not familiar with Percocet, it's an opioid, a very strong opioid. I was very fortunate that although I took those pills, my body rejected those pills into the terms of when I would take one, about an hour later, from the top of my head to the bottom of my toes, it's just like I had poison ivy everywhere. After the pain went away, I quit taking those pills. Many, many, many people in Madison County, and not just our county, but everywhere. I was in Knoxville recently, that was the headline, heroin. What do we do? Many, many, many people get hooked on those problems, not by, they woke up today and say, I want to be a drug addict, but they started off with something else, most of them painkiller. You've heard me say this before, well, you haven't heard this, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. I have a history of kidney stones. I don't know if any of y'all ever had kidney stones or not, but if you have, I'll just tell you, I would take anything at any time when I was laying in the floor, rolling around, trying to get that pain to quit. I've had surgery twice for that. It's just by the good grace of God, because every time when I go to that emergency room up there for them, they give me the strongest thing they've got. It's the good grace of God. I'm not an addict. My body rejects that. My wife is getting ready to have surgery for a torn tendon. They've already told us that we're going to give you a prescription for opioids because you're going to need this to deal with the pain. We're going to give you a shot when she's having that surgery. He said, but you're going to have to take this because when that shot wears off, you're going to be in excruciating pain. I ask you to pray for her. I pray for her. She doesn't get hooked up. I want to thank everybody that took the time to call, that took the time to email. I had more calls last week in 3 days than I've had in 3 months. So if you took the time to express your voice, thank you for that. I represent 16,000 people. We all have different views. The majority spoke. All right, I listened. So you know where we're at. On the judge explained where we're at. That's where we're going to stay up for the time being. So my number is 200-9765. I've given that out in every single court that we have been here, and I give it out for a reason. So you can call me. Please do. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. John?
Well, on a lighter note, I got a few issues, and then I'll discuss my views on the jail and the healing center. The judge said August, or July the 27th or August the 4th.
Y'all have your chance in a minute.
Is Madison County Fair. Please go out and participate and support the county fair out there. It's a big event for the county. Several thousand of people come through. Be on your best behavior out there. The First Christian Church is starting a kindness initiative August the 19th. For 40 days, we're inviting the whole community to join with us and doing nice things and kindness initiatives for people throughout the county. Don't wait until August the 19th. Let's start today. How about that? Let me share a little bit of my views and what I've heard about the jail and the healing center. There's been a lot of misunderstanding, like Judge Taylor and Mr. Bodkin said here. There's been a lot of response to that. I was elected by the people of the 3rd District to serve and represent that district, and I've done that in the past, and I will continue to do that in the future. I hear your concerns, and I'm listening to them, and I will abide by those concerns. As far as eliminating any essential services for the county, I am not for that whatsoever, especially not the fire department. There's been a lot of misunderstanding about that. We're not going to do away with the fire department. That's too much of a needed service for the county. I'm not getting much support for the healing center, although my views is it has a possibility of working. We have to make some decisions to help people. It may not be the county's responsibility to do that, though. That's what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is there's a very much need for the jail. We do have to expand the jail because of the overcrowdedness, because of the liability issue over there. We could get sued tomorrow, and we'd be paying more than what the jail would cost because if somebody gets hurt, gets killed, or whatever. So the jail expansion has to happen. I'm hearing that from all my constituents. And then you say, well, how are we going to pay for it? The 10% insurance premium tax, I'm hearing is way too high. I think we can do it on a lesser percentage. Nobody seems to want to be for taxes. I'm not for taxes either. I'm not supporting the 10% whatsoever. It put a burden on a lot of our residents. I've had people this week that call me, little ladies on fixed income, on Social Security, just cry and say, Mr. Tudor, please don't impose this on our residents. I hear them. I understand where they're coming from. Everybody's stressed with money right now. Let's don't do something that puts more of a burden on our community than what we're fixing at the jail or the rehab center. I feel like that the insurance premium tax is an unfair tax. We're limited on what kind of tax we can impose on the citizens. Like Judge said, the insurance premium tax, and what was the other?
Well, you have property tax, insurance premium tax, and
occupational tax. We're already, we're doing property tax. We only receive 8 cents out of $1. The school board gets 63%, the state gets 12, the library gets 6, the EMS gets 5. 8 cents is what we're managing your county on. I think that's pretty good financial management right there. But we need some help here, guys, and I think everybody knows it.
And don't forget, we lowered our property tax rate last year.
We lowered it. We could have took another 0.5%. We lowered it. But the way I look at the insurance premium tax, it's not fair to the county residents because the city's already paying 8 cents. The city of Berea's paying 6 cents, 6%. If we raise it to 10% across the county line, that would be 2 more cents from Richmond, 4 more cents from Berea. Those cities have the option to come in there and capture that tax. The county would not receive any funding from that. So that puts the burden solely back on the county residents for these projects. We have to have funding from all across the board. I don't know what we do to get the cities involved in this, but the state has put us, just tied our hands on the options that we have. We don't have the options to require the cities to pay for their inmates in the jail, even though I'd say more than 50% of the inmates are coming out of our cities, not our counties. But our counties are required to pay the entire bill. That's not fair. That's about all I got to say, Judge.
Thanks, John. Roger?
Yeah, John's touched on pretty much what I was going to say as far as the increase, the tax increase for the county population. But we've all got a job to do up here, and I don't think any of us was in favor of the 10% when it was presented. You know, I know that was a shock to a lot of people, and I want to defend Colleen. She wasn't proposing that we was going to shut all those things down, and I think a lot of people that I got calls from thought it was just somehow going to all go away. That can't happen. But I can assure you that there's a lot of things on that list that won't be getting the money that they did get. It's a simple fact. You got to pay the bills somehow. And if you can't pay them, then you got to reduce what you do. There's 1 or 2 things on there that's not a necessity, like the fire department or whatever. That's a necessity as far as I'm concerned. But there is some things that could be cut, some things may be cut completely out. But that's part of the job we got to do, just like part of the job is to try to come up with some kind of tax to pay the bills. That won't be that great a burden on the people. But I'm here to tell you, I've never had nobody call me yet and tell me they're willing to pay that increase. But that's just, I've tried to explain to people, in our home budgets, every day, every year, we pay increases. And we don't say a thing about it, because we know it's gonna happen. There's nothing we can do about it. But you gotta vote on this. It's not just like getting that bill from your insurance company in the mail and say, well, it's went up $10 this year or $50 this year, we might as well pay it because it's no cheaper anywhere else. But when it comes time here to get an increase, people's gotta vote on it. If you don't want it, then, you know, we're gonna suffer as well as you all are gonna suffer, because things are gonna be cut. But I appreciate everybody's call, and I didn't have the first one for it. I'll tell you that. That's all I got.
Thanks, Roger. Judge, you got anything?
Just one thing I want to say to you, Judge Taylor. I think watching as this unfolded, I think from the beginning of your term till now, tackling what is a critical problem in our community, bringing the team that you brought together, proposing the idea that you did, was a master class in leadership. Regardless of the outcome, I'm proud of you. I'm proud to serve with you.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks. Kenny?
And I've got sort of a benediction that we read at the end of every one of our Habitat Board meetings, executive committee meetings, that was passed down to me from Weber, and he got it from George Strunk, who used to be a pastor here at First Methodist, moved on to Louisville. I think it's very fitting right now. Dear friends, we do not pray for easy lives, but pray to be strong men and women. We do not pray for power equal to our tasks, but pray for that power, pray for the power that should be equal to all our tasks. Then the doing of the work will be no miracle, we will be the miracle, and we'll be constantly amazed at what God can do through the power of Jesus Christ living in us.
Thanks, Kenny. Sheriff? Doug?
Yes.
Comments from the audience? Anybody in the audience want to speak? Yeah, sure, come up. I mean,
I sure hope so.
yeah, I sure hope somebody wants to speak.
Maybe we need to get a keyboard.
Yeah.
Thanks for the message.
If you will, please state who you are, sir.
My name's Harold Bingham, and on the drug situation, well, I know we can't solve the problem. The fiscal court can't solve the problem. The problem starts at Washington, D.C., comes to Frankfort, Kentucky, then it comes to the county. And as long as we got taxpayer money of paying for drugs, they're gonna be here. They're free. Paid for by Medicaid and Medicare. I've seen it with my own eyes. The law officials can see the same thing I see. It's out there, plain as a nose on your face. You can go down to CVS, park in the parking lot. You sit there, people goes in, CVS, they come out with bags full of drugs, that big. They walk over to a car sitting in the parking lot. They roll the window down, the drugs goes in the car, and a couple of bucks comes out. They drive off. All paid by Medicaid, paid by the taxpayers. It don't cost them nothing. I've got neighbors that does it. They brag about it. Why not do it? It's good money. So how are you going to stop it? When it's a system. It's in the system that we live in. So if you're going to do it, it has to go on the ballot for the people to vote on. And who's going to vote against Medicaid? There's the, 55% of the people benefiting from it, from the crooked system. And how's it going to go away? How is taxing taxpayers, charging them more taxes when it's contributed to the cause? The drug rehabilitation center. You're gonna have drugs there, right? You're gonna give these people drugs, you're gonna give them food, you're gonna support them. And that's not gonna happen many. They go in the front door and out the back and revolve around, and instead of one coming back in, there's two. You're increasing dependency. You're not discouraging it. And the narcon thing, it's expensive drug. Why waste that on wasted people? That's what you're doing.
We're not doing that. Don't say we. This court has nothing to do with Narcan.
It's used though,
What?
in the county.
So what's your solution, Mr. Bingham? Not the healing center. What do you want us to do? You want us to lock them up in jail?
No. You need to do something about the revolving thing. These people, you say you got, how many?
Mr. Bingham, that's out of our control. That's out of our lane.
How many prisoners do you have in the jail?
On average, I think 380 this year, right?
On average.
On average, we've had 380.
Yeah.
184 bed
How many of
facilities.
them been there 3 or 4 times before?
75% of them is the recidivism rate.
That's right.
Yeah. So this
Something's
court,
something not working. You know?
hey, we agree. We
And I
absolutely
think-
agree,
I
Mr.
think,
Bingham.
We used to have a justice system in this country. It was called the Department of Justice. Now it's called the Criminal Justification System. That's what we're running now. We're justifying criminals. So it's going to be it's a massive screw up.
Yeah.
That's what we got. And I don't know how we're going to solve it. It has to be done through the ballot box. And like you say, when I said a while ago, with 55% of the people in the country benefiting, how you going to get them out?
Yep.
So all I'm doing is, it's got to start someplace. I know that there's not enough people here to do anything about it, but there's enough people here that they can think about it.
We have a role as a fiscal court. It's set out in statute what our role is. And the federal government, the state, they really make our county laws, all right? And they tell me I'm responsible for things. And so the whole idea behind this was to do something different that has a solution. Because there's two facts. There's two facts in all this, is that arresting and incarcerating is not working.
No, it's not going to work.
And the Department of Corrections, we have rules that we have to follow. Doug has to follow rules with the Department of Corrections every day. A lot of comments made about a sheriff in Arizona. We should give tents. Well, I'm sorry, that's not realistic. And if you really look into it, that county was sued. Millions of dollars, the taxpayer dollars went out because of lawsuits. All right? So, at the end of the day, Mr. Bingham, we had an idea. The ones that voiced their opinion are not open for it. And so, if we continue to spend $200,000+ a year, $300,000 a year sending inmates to other counties because we can't house them, then, we just keep sending taxpayer dollars out of our county. We're going to go back to the drawing board.
I'm not against expanding the jail. If that needs to be done.
So how do we pay for it? If we expand the jail, if we don't increase our revenues? We are capped. We're giving the sheriff $1.5 million right now. We're giving the jail $2.2 million to balance their budget. We're giving the road department $900,000. And if taxpayers aren't willing to pay their way, then it's tough.
But they have some programs in the county that's overrunning. They're spending more money than they're servicing.
Well,
We have no control over that, Mr. Bingham, I appreciate your time, man. I understand it. I understand your concern, all right? I thank you for being here. Anybody else? Sure. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Mary McMahon.
Yep.
Is it possible for you to get part of forfeitures that come from drug seizures?
The sheriff can get forfeitures, but there's certain things he has to use that money on. The law states. It doesn't come back to necessarily the fiscal court. There's a situation right now that they were part of the HIDTA task force 2 years ago.
It's a slow process.
And we still haven't
We take
really seen
money
anything.
Quite often, but the time it goes through the legal system.
I understand it's a long, slow process. My husband's worked for the federal government for years, so I'm well aware of how long it takes and everything, but there's still money coming in. So can't you, I mean, can the jail, sheriff's department, whatever, take part in this, in the forfeiture money? And
I think you have to use that money on certain things, Sheriff.
Yeah, the jail can't use the forfeiture money.
Yeah.
It stays with the seizing agency.
can you, is there a way to put into the penalty phase for the drug offenses, another penalty so that it comes back to the county? Another penalty for drug offenses?
Well, that'd have to be state law, wouldn't it?
You mean charge people a fine?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are fees associated with your jail service. Collecting those fees, as you might imagine, is virtually impossible. So there is probably on the books now, Doug, who knows how much that's out there that in jail fees that people owe. But the time and expense it takes to collect that money is not worth it. And even if you collected every dollar of it, it wouldn't make a dent in what the budget requires to run an appropriate jail for a community our size. The reality of our situation is you can look across the country, and you can look at population, and you know very formulaically how many people you're going to have in jail based on your population size.
Right.
And we're just too small. Our jail's just too small.
I mean,
We don't have an inmate problem. We've got a jail problem.
Well, and we got a drug problem. I mean, you know, and I've said all these numbers. I mean, we've presented this over and over and over and over. I mean, in 1996, there was 107 circuit court indictments. In 2015, there was 626. 2017, there's 1,007 circuit court indictments just here in Madison County. You know, our population has grown like 41%, I believe is the number. Our population of our county has grown 41%. But our jail population has grown like 89%.
To Mr. Bingham's point,
I mean, 800 yeah, it was 800 and something percent.
you know, one of my greatest frustrations as prosecutor, to Mr. Bingham's point, is there are so many tools missing from the prosecutor's toolbox to protect this community because there's nowhere to put anybody. One of the reasons I started the home incarceration program was to at least have some penalty that I can impose on somebody other than just a probation, right? My personal belief is until it hurts worse to do the wrong thing than to do the right thing, people will keep doing the wrong thing, right? But recovery has got to be part of that plan, which is why the Healing Center made some sense to me. But the reality of it is, until we've got somewhere where we can put people, those people, some people just need to be in jail, right? Some people just need to be in jail. We can't even service those folks. That's where we're at right now.
I mean, I'm gonna make sure one thing's clear is when we put together this jail task force in 2015, you know, it was made up of citizens. It wasn't elected officials just getting together and singing kumbaya. We engaged the community and people that had a little knowledge. I mean, bankers, CPAs. And when we ended that task force, when you looked at all the numbers and you calculated and you projected what size jail we needed in the next 10 to 15 years, it was an 800-bed facility.
$50 million.
It was approximately $50 million expenditure, all right? So you know what we went? We said, hey, there's no way that we can go to our taxpayers and say, hey, we've got a $50 million jail we got to build. Because you know what that would have done? All that would have done was kick the can down the road.
You can't build
You know,
enough
and the thing is this really should have been dealt with before we got here. Previous administration should have dealt with this. I mean, the statistics showed the uptick in incarcerations. It showed the uptick in circuit court indictments. It was right in front of their faces if they'd have looked at it. But we didn't want to come to the taxpayers and say we want to kick the can down the road. You know, we've got a financial obligation, and we got an obligation to do the right thing for the people of Madison County. And in my opinion, do the business thing. Do the thing that makes sense. Be solutions oriented. invest in a person that is a scourge on society to become a taxpayer. You know how you lower your taxes? You got more people paying taxes. But the direction we're going and what we're saying is that we just want to build a bigger jail and jail them. Well, that doesn't mean that stops the tax or the way we have to pay for it. What we thought we were doing was being smart, saying to the taxpayer, we don't need to spend $50 million on a new jail that's not working. We want to spend $30 million. We want to build a jail as part of it, and we want to try to heal these people and become taxpayers. We want to invest in our school system and have a prevention component. We want to do a needle exchange. You know, this drug epidemic didn't happen yesterday, and we're trying to do a collaboration of things to make our community healthy. You know, you talk about investing in a person's life and increasing your workforce. You know, to have a better workforce than any county in this state, because we have a program model that employs them. You know why rehabs don't work? It's because there's not a workforce component to it. You know, individuals go in for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and they get the mental healing, and then they come out with no tools to be successful. So what we were trying to do is invest in a program that was solutions oriented, that made sense, that there was a return on investment. You know, a good business model to me is, Mr. Bingham, you've been in the building business for years. When you wanted to build a rental property or duplex, did you wait till you had $100,000 to build it, or did you go borrow money from a bank? You went and borrowed money. That's exactly right. And then you waited till you paid that off, and then you had a return on investment. Well, in my opinion, this was no different. We're asking the taxpayers to invest in a solution that is going to lower your tax rate in the future. And
Making it work though is the problem.
yeah, well, I would rather invest in a solution than invest in something that's not working.
You can't take things
You know,
choices away.
it's proven that the jail is not working. That is the two facts that is not working. Arresting and incarcerating is not working. But at the end of the day, we've heard you. I'm not sitting here arguing with you or debating you on it. This topic is over, and we're going to go back to the drawing board. I'm just making these statements so that you don't look at me and call me the names that I was called on Facebook last week. You know? Because I'm not here to get kickbacks. I never even asked to drive a county vehicle. I don't drive one home. I don't ask for mileage reimbursement. And in my opinion, I think it was a shame. I think it was a shame how we were all treated. Colleen, how hard she works. Being here at 7 o'clock in the morning when I don't have to be. You know, I think people need to be respectful. My phone, my door's open. Anybody that wants to come in my door and talk to me, I'm open for it. And I'm disappointed. Yeah, I'm disappointed. This court spent a lot of money in getting to this point for a solution. For people to say, no, don't do that, let's invest in something that's not working. You know, to think that we're saying we're going to cut the fire department? I mean, come on. I mean, don't feed into this social media crisis. Let's be respectful for one another. Let's have the decency to pick up a phone and have a conversation, a respectful conversation. You know, it's one thing that I'm proud of this court is we're not like the other courts that have passed the buck. You know, we're not a government body that's doing the same thing that's always been done. And that's proven. This building, we've lowered the custodial supplies from $17,000 a year to $5,000. You think we're doing that to not be conservative or not be smart? No, we're not. We're doing it to prove to you, the taxpayer, that we're making good decisions with your money. We've lowered the diesel fuel number 2 in the road department from $115,000 to $50,000. We did that so that we could come to you in times like this and say, get behind us, give us the support we need. Because we're doing what's right for the community. You know, I can't help. Everybody generalizes taxes. Everybody thinks my taxes are too high. I've had umpteen conversations on the phone. People don't believe me when I say what you pay to the county in property taxes. You know, it's a false perception. Everybody generalizes. They don't have a clue that we get 8 cents. You know, when you write a check for $1,000 to the Madison County Sheriff to pay your property taxes, that the county gets $82 of that. $82. You know, if I raise your property taxes 4%, that's 4% of the $82. It's like $3.20. But yet we can't raise taxes. If I raise your taxes 4% in the whole entire county, it only generates us $136,000 a year. You know, I can't control what the library does and all them. You know, if you want to blame people, go to the school board meetings. Go to the library board meetings. Go to the ambulance board meetings. Stop generalizing taxes. You know, I don't care to be blamed for things that I do wrong or that I do right. I don't care. But don't blame me for the federal government not doing their job or the state government not doing their job. I've got a rule book that I have to follow. We have laws set in place. You know, if we're going to go and change laws, the previous administration should have done that. Previous administration should have added on to the jail well before now. But I ran for this office to make a difference in my county and to make things right. And that's what we're trying to do. We've held budget meeting after budget meeting, special work sessions. We had one in May. How many in here watched it? Employees don't count. You know, if you're going to get on a keyboard and you're going to voice your opinion, get engaged. That's all I ask you to do. Anybody else have anything else to say?
I just have a real quick question. Debbie Vescio, Madison County. I believe the jail needs to be expanded, and I believe the jail does bring in funding from the state, and I understand about the 8 cents per dollar that you get. However, I have yet to hear the success rate of the rehabilitation program that you're wanting to bring in to the county. So what is the success rate of what you're wanting to do?
I don't know right off the top of my head, David. I mean,
That slide was presented.
that was at the meeting. Jackie got up there and talked about what they're,
4-hour block.
you know,
She presented a slide.
you know, the individuals are doing this all over the state. You know, what we were wanting to do is again, invest in a longer term program, invest in an educational component that allow people to go to work when they got out. You know, man, I've heard story after story after story of mothers saying that their kid goes to rehab and they get out and can't find a job. Well, I mean, if they don't have tools and they can't get a job, I mean, then what do? They revert back to drugs. I mean, you know, I don't know. Debbie,
Well, as to the success rate, I was here, and so it wasn't really given as to what the recidivism rate was. It was kind of like, we'll do this or we'll do that, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct? I mean, I believe in prevention. However, I don't think the county should get into the healing business.
So
you know.
what was your solution with the jail, Debbie? Yeah, what's your solution, Mike? What's your
I think
solution
from
to
the
the jail?
standpoint,
You want
we
to just
need
build
to
a new jail?
expand.
How
We
big?
need
How
to
big do you
expand
think
the
that we
jail.
should expand it?
That's for you all to decide.
Well, right now we have 400 inmates, and we're
However-
projected 800 in the next 10
However,
to 15
it can
years.
bring in revenue to the county from the state. And I
So-
know you laugh,
Yeah,
but let me
yeah.
ask you this.
Mhm.
Kenton County has gone off. They have partnered with the Betty Ford Foundation. They have partnered with the University of Kentucky. They have partnered with others. They have submitted jointly a grant request for $2 million. so that they can begin to look at ways to actually do rehab. So that gives them some chances to figure that out. And I think from the standpoint of our home incarceration and trying to figure out a success rate, we should see what that looks like as to from the standpoint of those being placed in home incarceration. There are other programs out there that are using home incarceration that...
Home incarceration will not affect the recidivism rate at all. In some ways, home incarceration will increase your recidivism rate. Home incarceration specifically here is being used to take pressure off the jail. That's the only reason we're doing it.
Kenton County is one of 9 or 11 counties along with that received state funding to use Vivitrol also in their substance abuse program in their jail. All right. So if you're not familiar with Vivitrol, and that's Vivitrol, and you have a son or a daughter or a member, a friend, whatever, you need to research that and look that up. All right, that's the first thing. So, that same thing. Should that program come to us?
I'm not suggesting
a new jail be built, regardless of the size of it. There was 32 beds allotted in the proposed jail for substance abuse in the jail. Our intention was to use, the comment was made earlier about using drugs that were as addictive as the drugs that they were already on. That's the truth. Our proposal said that you have to use Vivitrol in our jail. It's a non-addictive opium blocker. If you're not familiar with it, please look it up. That was part of our solution for that. Narcan. Listen, I've talked to people. One guy told me, he said, listen, I don't want Narcan. My son, they had an addicted child, and they told me, said, I don't want my child to receive one more dose of Narcan. I had another gentleman that told me, I don't care if you give my child 100 doses of Narcan. Depends on where you're at. Depends on what your child is. All right? Depends on what your feeling is. EMS and our ambulance services, those guys' job is to save lives. They're going to administer Narcan as long as it's available. That's their job.
The county, this board right here has a job duty.
Absolutely.
And it's not to run the jail. That's the jailer's job. That's the jailer's job to do programs and what goes on. It's our job to financially be responsible for what happens there. And so what we were looking at was a solution to a financial problem. And we've heard you. The loudest voice has been heard that you think it's that we don't need to be in the healing business. And so we're going to go back to the drawing board, and we're going to look at expanding our jail. And right now, to be about 500 beds, which almost gets us at capacity, is about $20 million. For every $1 million we borrow, it's an $80,000 bond payment. All right.
And the only thing I just wanted to tell you a quick story is I've talked to people. A lady who actually works at a convenience store basically said, I've never done drugs. I work here to pay for my children. And basically, I would like to see, and I'm not saying that the county pay for this, I'm just saying her particular situation was, why isn't somebody investing in me so that I can improve my life skills, so I can make more money to be able to pay more taxes and be a productive citizen. So I'm just using that as a story. I'm not, saying you guys give life skills.
Whose role is that in?
I'm not saying that, but I'm just using that. You mentioned about taking your inmates and making them a productive citizen. Here we have someone who is a productive citizen, but is at a lower income rate, and from that standpoint. So that's it. Thank you.
To clear something up, though, the state does pay for some inmates, but it's nowhere near paying for the ones that don't pay a dime.
It costs us $25 a day to incarcerate. The state pays $31. So what is that net? $6? So I've done the math on this. If we did an 800-bed jail and got 400 inmates the state would pay for, that only generates a little better than $800,000 a year. Now, everybody's sitting there saying, hey, that's $800,000. But the liability for 400 individuals, for a net on $800,000 a year for the liability and the cost. I mean, so anyway, any other comments?
I just have a quick comment.
Sure.
Nathan Holman.
Say it in the mic, please.
My name's Nathan Holman. I hadn't planned on speaking, but just
Yeah, sure,
thought it was
welcome
coming up.
to.
So,
Yeah.
About the jail. Any idea roughly how many misdemeanor inmates you have, as opposed to felony inmates?
We do. There's a majority, I'd say 85%, almost 90 is felony cases.
Or felony cases. Okay. So nonviolent, first offender, misdemeanor cases are probably good for the home incarceration program.
Yes, that's our goal, is
Okay.
is to take those folks out first, and then work with Commonwealth Attorney's Office on whether or not we can expand the program into nonviolent felony possession cases that might work on the home incarceration program as well.
So kind of using that to go back to your point about getting people out of jail, making them become taxpayers, you know, people of society. Well, if you're a felon, you have no voting rights. So, you know, they're hard to get jobs. That's on them. They made that choice. So why are we trying to, you know, how are we going to help them get jobs if they're already felonies? And your employers are the ones that are setting those standards. Well, you can't have a felony and work here and work here and work here. So what do we do about that? You know?
Hitachi has said that in a recent study that they've got to go through 3,000 resumes to get one employee that can pass a drug test.
I don't doubt that a bit.
3,000.
I worked EMS. I know all about the drug
To
epidemic.
get one that can pass. Some of the factories anymore aren't even testing for certain types of drugs because they know they can't get them to pass.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just where we live at.
Right.
We've got a choice. We can either deal with it, we can turn our head and walk away.
We've spent, you know, and I'm sure the sheriff knows, millions, everybody knows, millions or billions on a war on drugs that has done absolutely nothing. I mean, it's proven. It does nothing. You know, so until we stop that problem, whether it be on a county level, a state level, federal level, you know, nothing's going to change.
Well, at the end of the day, the federal government passes things down, mandates down to the counties.
Absolutely.
All right, the state passes down mandates to the counties, and at the end of the day, who do we don't have any other elected body to pass them down to.
Right.
We don't have anything.
Yeah, somebody's got to take
We got
it.
obligations to say this is what the law says, you know. And at the end of the day, all we were trying to do was come up with a solution. And the counties never come up with a solution.
Right.
You know, why do the cities have so much in reserve?
Right.
Right.
Right. That's something that definitely needs to be addressed.
I can't address that.
No,
It's not
I'm
it's
saying
not my
the
role,
public does.
you know?
There needs to be more people
Why do they have
involved.
so much in reserve? Well, I think a lot of it is because they don't rely on other government entities. They rely on their taxpayers. They rely on their citizens of their cities to pay.
Okay.
And if they can apply for grants, federal government and the state government, then that's just a little extra gravy.
Right.
You know.
Right. So, you know, we want to spend 20, 30 million on a facility, which is great. Nobody wants to see anybody suffer from drugs or, you know, any kind of harm. Nobody wants to see that. But, you know, we've got look at these bridges around here. What are we doing about those? They're falling down. Tate's Creek not going to be closed for 6 months. For a bridge, it's been...
Again, that's a state bridge. That's out of our control.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. But it may be. But do we not have some input on getting that fixed?
No.
None whatsoever.
Have none whatsoever.
Okay.
None whatsoever. We've got three. I got three bridges right now in 80-20 bridge program. We're trying to get funding for with the state, and I'm waiting on paperwork. Actually, the commissioner texted me a few minutes ago and said, "Please call him." That we're trying to do on Arbuckle, on Cardinal Drive, and out on Cedar Hill. You know, and again, we're relying on the state transportation cabinet to give us money for it.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, we got to get it from somewhere. I don't think tax is the right thing. You know.
You know, another thing is, and I read a lot of people's comments, and I mean, I'm not going to disagree with some of the comments that were made. That, you know, there's different ways to increase your revenues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of those is broaden, expand your tax base, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, we tried to do that Tuesday, and that didn't work very good.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I
y'all heard
understand.
it earlier. You know, taking a piece of property that's assessed at approximately $300,000 and turning it into a $12 million project and property. You know, and you know, it's tough. I get it, guys. I mean, I'm a businessman. I mean, I pay taxes a lot. I'm the last one that wants to pay more taxes. But at the same time, man, this county, like we said earlier, hadn't had a tax increase since Larry's been here in 37 years. You know, and that tax increase that we talk about as property taxes is very minimal. You know, and it's tax. I get it. Other entities tax you to death. I get it. But I just wish that we didn't get blamed for a lot of that.
Oh, I understand it. You guys are doing your job. You know, it's going back to the jail.
When the library's at 6 cents.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
there's an issue there.
And we're at 8.2 cents.
Right.
And I lowered your taxes last year. It was 8.3. Yeah, we lowered your taxes last year by a tenth. You know, and a lot of people I've asked that on the phone, I've talked to this way. Did you know that we lowered your taxes last year? And not a one person said yes. Because you get the tax bill as a whole, you know, and it's got each taxing district listed on it, and so you generalize that tax. You know.
Well, I mean, you know, we have an inmate work program I'm aware of. You know, why don't we utilize them more for transportation issues? You know,
that'd be a question
you know,
for your jailer.
Right.
You know, you elect the jailer and the sheriff and the clerk and the county attorney and the
but
master
but going back to that, you guys are in charge of the funds of the jail. I mean, do they have cable TV?
They pay for it, the commissary.
The commissary.
They pay for it.
You don't pay for
The
nothing.
commissary money has to be spent on certain things. You just can't spend on what you want to. You know,
And we have no control.
Provisions for the prisoners.
KRS says that the commissary is does.
See, that's
you know,
state
the jailers.
regulation that we have no control of.
You could have $1 million in there and it can only be used for certain things. That's the state mandates that on you.
Hey, believe me, I promise you, in 3.5 years, I've been where you're at right now. Every way that I turn, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Right, it's ridiculous.
Are you
And I mean, you
kidding
guys
me?
are doing a job, and I don't
You
think
know?
anybody's trying to hold you all responsible for that. You're doing what you were elected to do.
Let me
You
say
know,
that there's some things in the jail also that I have to do necessarily agree with.
yeah, and I'm sure you don't. I mean, you know, that everybody has, that's part of their job, doing something they don't want to do. But so,
Yeah, I've had the same man. Oh my goodness, are
Right.
you kidding? You know, many times. But
All right,
guys,
appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. It's a good conversation.
Larry wants to-
Huh?
Larry wants to speak. You give her.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Landry Luxon, and I'd just like to speak on the taxes, saying that taxes are the price we pay to live in a civilized society. And the fact that taxes haven't been raised in 35 years, the cost of living hasn't decreased. And I think it's easy for citizens to say, oh, we don't want a tax increase because they want their pay that they've been receiving, but they still want the amenities that the county provides. And unless they have any solutions to increasing the monetary input in fiscal court, I think they should withhold their opinions and come to more court meetings.
Thank you.
I do want to say one last thing, Judge. And, you know, I hear your tax concerns. Trust me, I've heard a bunch of them. I want to say just one thing. I work 2 jobs and have retirement income. I pay 37% tax. I don't know how everybody else is. I don't know what tax. It's not your business what you pay. I pay taxes. A lot of taxes. I'm concerned about it too.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi, my name is Sharon Bass. I have a comment about what she just said. I'm a recent retired firefighter. When I first started working here, I was paid minimum wage, $4.75, 1997. When I retired here, I was making about $10.66 an hour. I'm a single woman. I'm on a fixed income. I should file for food stamps. I'm at poverty level. You think that's easy? No. And food is getting higher and everything. No, honey.
Hey, and this, Sharon, I appreciate your comments, but comments need to be addressed to
I
the
know,
board,
but
not
I'm
to
sorry.
individuals.
I apologize,
No,
but
it's okay. I mean, if you want to.
if taxes increases and stuff, it's very hard for fixed income people.
I agree.
And
I
everything
hear
going
you.
up,
I hear you.
that's where a lot of people's is kind of aggravated if taxes goes up. And when
And again, we go back to the fact that we thought we were communicating this to the citizens, and it's obvious that we didn't do it well enough. And so in the future, when we have these, we will hold public hearings. We will put, the people on a panel that understands, that knows the law, you know, that, from a financial standpoint, they understand what our roles are and our obligations are, to make sure that your questions get answered, you know. At the end of the day, you know, there's some out there that just, it doesn't matter to anybody. A tax is never gonna be okay. I mean, it's just the way it is, and I get it. I respect people for their opinions, you know. We don't have to agree or disagree. I mean, that's perfectly fine. But all I know is we're faced with a financial crisis in this county, and we've had slides. We've showed what those things are, and some have made comments that we need to live within our means. So we're going to go back to the drawing board, and we're going to see what that means, live inside our means. You know, does that mean that we need to cut the road department $900,000? Because that's what we're having to use to prop up that budget out of the general fund? You know, we only spend $700,000 a year in asphalt. You know, I cut 5 positions out of the road department last year to make our budget balance. You know, so, I mean, does that mean we cut $900,000? We go from $3 million budget to almost $2 million budget. So when you want to smack weeds on the side of the road when you're driving down the road, you want to hit potholes. I mean, you know, we're here to listen to you, and we're here, and in my opinion, I'm here to do what the taxpayer wants me to do. You know, so. All right, I think I think everybody good? Billy Ray? Good. You good? You don't want to say anything? All right. So at this time, I need a motion and a second to pay the claims and approve the transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Next meeting, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bucking?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mr. Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Tudor?
Yes.
Just two.
Yes, next meeting is August 14th, 2018 here in Richmond. I need a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mr. Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Tudor?
Yes.
Mr. Bucking?
Yes.
Just two.